I'm sure a lot of you have seen already the big shakeup in sports media with Shannon Sharpe leaving FS1 and Undisputed to go elsewhere, whether it's him solely focusing on his podcast or moving on to a different network. Also, it's not shown on the screen right now, but of course, with him leaving, he's also pulling his podcast from FS1 as well. A lot of people like to see him. I've heard say he should go to our First Take with Stephen A. Smith. No doubt that would be a great combination for viewerships. A lot of people would definitely follow Shannon to ESPN. Pat McAfee has also put his 2 cents in and saying that ESPN should go after him. But a lot of us aren't surprised he's leaving. This kind of sums up really from this year, and there have been some sometimes some instances in the years past, but this year was kind of really the breaking point for this one. I'm just more surprised at how fast he's leaving. Now, of course, he's terminating his contract. I shouldn't be too surprised because the same way for players where they terminate their contract and it's immediate. Shannon will be leaving Undisputed after the NBA Finals. Of course, we already had Game 1 yesterday, so if you look at the remaining schedule, if it is the shortest for the finals being a sweep, that would be June 9th. If it goes the full distance to a Game 7, June 18th. But regardless, we don't have a lot of time left with Undisputed. And like I said, it's not a big shock to many people, including myself, that he is leaving. This kind of really stems from, if there was an instance, if you had to pick one, the Tom Brady topic months back where Skip Bayless, I don't have the exact quote, so I'm just paraphrasing, telling Shannon basically he's jealous that Brady's playing at a higher level at 45 than he did at 35. It was an unnecessary shot at him, very immature. No doubt Shannon was upset with that, though you could kind of say it's hypocritical for him to do that with him recently going back and forth with Kwame Brown, taking personal shots at him as well. So if you want to say it's hypocritical for Shannon doing that as well, like as he did it to Kwame, yes, all right, you definitely have a valid reason, but if we're just solely looking at from Shannon and Skip, it was very unnecessary from Skip Bayless, but we don't expect that much better from them. So once again, he is leaving. Of course, after that too was the DeMar Hamlin situation where when that happened, when Skip Bayless put his tweet out, right when that whole situation was going on, he didn't show up that was a Monday Night Football game, so he didn't show up on Tuesday, and when he returned on Wednesday, he tried to do a nice monologue, and when he brought up about the tweet, Skip Bayless, as usual, got offended and, started crying on air about it, and it kind of ruined the moment for that. After that, it kind of settled down, but we all knew that he was going to leave. I'm kind of interested in seeing where he's going to go, if he's going to go to a different network, or he's going to kind of really focus on his podcast, because it really has done really well. He's getting tons of big names on there doing interviews, so no doubt he can thrive on that solely. But I feel like he would want to go somewhere else and kind of continue his career with debate shows and stuff like that. And of course, the obvious one being First Take. That would definitely draw in a lot of eyes to, between Stephen A. Smith and Shannon Sharpe. And this is where I'm kind of switching over to a different conversation, but talking about Undisputed in general with Skip Bayless and the show's future. What do I think is going to happen after Shannon leaves? We only have probably like a week or two left of Shannon Sharpe being on the show. So what do I predict, or how do I feel it's going to happen after he leaves post Shannon Sharpe? I expect the obvious one. I do believe there will be a drastic decline in viewership. The only big question is going to be what is Skip Bayless going to do? Is he going to try and tackle this show by himself, or is he going to try and get a different partner? But if he does, who's going to want to be with Skip on that show? Who's going to want to deal with him? That is a tough conversation. I feel like he has no choice but to find somebody, because if he does it solely by himself, it's going to fail miserably. And I think shortly after, the show will get canceled and they will push him to the side. And the same thing could be done even if he does find another partner. And I've seen some comments saying, "Oh, well, Shannon or Skip's already been in the sports media this long without Shannon, he'll probably thrive afterwards." And it could be true, but I think with Skip getting up there in age and the way sports media has changing, of course you kind of hear the phrase new sports media with definitely former and current players starting their own outlets. It's a different era for sports coverage, and Skip Bayless could definitely be kind of like the prehistoric ages, if you want to look at that, and kind of slowly get pushed out of the way and have more former or current players in whatever sports start to really cover those shows. So I think this is kind of if you want to say the beginning and the end for Skip Bayless with it, because of course he has his own podcast by him, when he does by himself, and I don't know how popular it is. I'm guessing it's not that popular. I've seen videos here and there, but for the most part, I could probably guess it's not that successful. So if he did it by himself on Undisputed, it's gonna be pretty bad because he has no one to debate. It's just gonna be him talking about topics, and no one's gonna listen to that. The only reason why that a lot of people that still stuck around, including myself, was because of Shannon Sharpe. That was there times where Skip Bayless makes good points and actually does well on topics. Yeah, but it's very few and far in between. So switching to a different part for Undisputed. Why did it fail? And I don't want to say, not in the sense that the show was doing terrible. I'm sure there is probably a decline in viewership, but overall, like in my view, this show should have been so much better than what it was. It had the potential to really, I think, be up there as the top show in sports in general, and kind of revolutionize it in a way, because they really missed out, and I think a big opportunity. I don't see a lot of shows do this, like First Take and a couple others. They don't cover more sports. For Undisputed, it's the same 3 topics. For sports-wise, it's football and basketball. There are, they sprinkle in other sports here and there, but for the most part, for the topics, it's the same three things. It's the Dallas Cowboys, LeBron James, Tom Brady, and, let's say Baker Mayfield and a couple other people. Of course, with Brady leaving, at least for right now, he still stayed retired. That's out of the equation. So right now, you're at LeBron and Dallas. In a few years, maybe if they still stay together, Shannon and Skip, you don't have a lot of time left for LeBron either. Now, I could have segued into his son, Bronny, getting drafted, and they can obviously start that whole new journey with him too. But LeBron would be out of the equation. I'm sure they'll bring in his name up as well, but that'll take it away, and you're really left with the Dallas Cowboys. And no one really wants to hear about that. If you are a Cowboys fan, that's absolutely fine. I have no problem with it. I have no problem with Skip being a Cowboys fan, but this is not a podcast or a show dedicated to Dallas Cowboys. This is a show dedicated to sports, and the fact that you keep having to put a topic of the Cowboys every single day in something. I don't care what Dak Prescott did or said, or Micah Parsons did, or what Jerry Jones did, or what CeeDee Lamb. I don't care about that. Obviously, I wish nothing bad to happen to them or anything like that. I just don't care. And even for my team as the Bills, I don't want to see. I wouldn't want to see them either covered every single day. I would just get tired of it. It'd be annoying. It'd be annoying to see any team talk about every single day. So I don't want to see the Cowboys even not just the Cowboys, but LeBron and Brady. I don't want to see the same topics cycled over and over and over again. And when the show first started, yes, it was pretty entertaining and pretty fun to watch. But after a while, it just got stale. Even to this point, there are some topics where it is entertaining to watch, and I would be interested to see. But for the most part, you can kind of guess what the coverage is going to be like. It's going to be almost the same exact. And the biggest, I think, downfall for Undisputed is just the lack of variety. So if you want to just stick with just solely, let's say, for sports, football, and basketball, why don't you cover more the college level, the collegiate level, especially for football and for football and basketball? They do that. They do cover a little bit here and there if there's talking about players coming up soon in the draft, or they'll cover for football the playoffs and the championship, or for basketball it'll be the March Madness and the championship game. But for the most part, that's pretty much it. I think that they should really dive into the college side of it more. Talk about big games every week. If there's a great matchup, if there's a Alabama LSU game, or whatever rivalry you want to say. I know they do bring up some at times the Ohio State Michigan, but I want to see more. If there's more big games getting covered, if it's USC Colorado or something like that, talk about that. Talk about the big players in college sports, or players that had great games or something like that, or players that are potentially coming out in the draft. Talk about them more. That's what I think a lot of people want. Even if you aren't the biggest fan of that, I think people would still appreciate you adding a fresh topic to the cycle and delivering that. And there's definitely a huge market and huge viewership of college sports. Obviously, many people say that they prefer college sports over the pro levels. They think it's more entertaining, more fun, more team-oriented instead of individual. If you look at for basketball too, once again, basketball is really exciting. No doubt, March Madness is one of the best times in sports in general for pros and collegiate. It's exciting to watch, no doubt, and I don't think they cover it as much as they should. They cover games here and there if there's upsets or something, but I think for the most part, once again, for football, like I said, dive into more basketball, even if it isn't March Madness, if there is a great regular season game or something along the lines like that, cover that more, dive into that more, put topics in that. Even if you don't want to say college sports in general, look at the other major league sports that they don't cover: MLB, NHL. We look at, if you break down MLB, America's Game. Why don't you want to cover that more if that is still a relatively popular sport in America? There are times that they'll cover that here and there. Last year they covered, obviously, Aaron Judge with his home runs record and him potentially getting a big contract. They cover that, but for the most part, it's either a very short, like the end of the show, 30-second discussion, or it's just a very short topic. And usually it sucks because in the 30-second topics at the end of the show, that's when they kind of really have variety, but they don't give it that time of day. It's only a quick 30-second remarks, and then they push out the door, and then we're stuck with the Cowboys for half an hour discussing what Dak Prescott did in his second day at camp, and you don't have variety with that, especially once again for MLB. If there are great games on, or if there's players that have amazing performances, why wouldn't you want to cover that? Especially in playoffs, they don't really cover playoffs a lot. The only thing they really cover is the World Series, which I have no problem with. Cover that, it's great. But once again, dive into that, add more variety, and especially for NHL, they talk absolutely nothing about NHL. Of course, for people, I know it's not up there compared to football and basketball and MLB for popularity, but it's still popular nonetheless. And even if you aren't a big fan of hockey, I think people would still appreciate you adding variety to it and talking about that. Now, they don't seem the best to know knowledge of hockey, especially for Skip. I don't know if they even know too much of hockey. They know any of the players. But if I look at hockey, it's like you have one of the best players in the world in Connor McDavid. He is definitely one of the best athletes in the world. Why wouldn't you want to talk about that and dive into that, especially for the NHL playoffs? Of course, there have been some series where it hasn't been the best. Some were sweeps, and some where a lot of the games are blowouts. But they were still relatively exciting, especially Eastern Conference Finals between the Hurricanes and the Panthers. Even though they ended up in a sweep, which you look at record wise or the series wise, it looks horrible. But if you break down each game, it literally came down to the end of the game or an overtime. That's not you can't ask for a sweep for that. It literally came down to the final minutes of a game or an overtime. Each marginal win was just 1 point. It was either 3-2, 4-3, or something along the range like that. Or if you want to dive into the Western Conference, it wasn't too exciting. I mean, the Dallas did, the Stars did have, 2 wins to kind of, not make it a sweep and, make it look decent. But for the most part, it was Vegas that dominated that. But there's also been other series like the Devils, Rangers, along those lines. There's so much more in the hockey that I think a lot of people would appreciate that if you really dove into that. And it's not just Undisputed, it's First Take and many other shows that don't cover hockey. And I think that's definitely a sport that gets neglected. And I think it's dumb not to cover that, because I really think you can really tap into a ton of viewers to really expand on your shows. And the fact that they don't add that variety is very disappointing. But once again, if they don't know absolutely nothing about it, it's pretty tough to cover that. But I would say bring on someone who is an expert in the hockey, bring someone who is an expert in MLB, or along the range, along those range of. Bringing someone who knows what they're talking about to add to the discussion, and maybe they can learn off of them and maybe develop an interest into that and cover it more. But I think it's more so that the big downfall, and that really stems back to Skip Bayless, because he it's his show. He picks the topics and he picks the same topics over and over and over again. And to his credit, whether he's trolling or not or hating, whatever how you view it, he's made a ton of money. He gets a ton of viewership because people still tune in to see what dumb thing he says next, what outlandish thing he says about the Cowboys winning the Super Bowl every single year, what he says about LeBron, how he's a horrible player. People always tune in to see reactions, and that's kind of what a lot of the other shows too. It's more so just saying outlandish things to get clicks, get viewership, and it's unfortunate rather than actually having a great discussion and really analyzing stuff. And for Skip and for Undisputed, I think they really missed the mark in potentially evolving this show into greater heights and greater success, and for them. And all I had to do was really just tap into different topics, different sports, different genres, and that really could have elevated themselves. But instead, it just focused on the same thing over and over and over again. And I thought I saw some comments saying too, part of the reason Shannon also left is because he got sick of talking about the same topics over and over. And I'm sure it does definitely get old after 7 years of basically talking about the same thing. It definitely probably wears you out. You want to get new variety, new topics, new discussions, and it's once again it's very unfortunate that it's coming to an end. I think also too Undisputed in general is going to come to an end because even if he does find someone else, it's not going to be the same. Most of the viewerships was there for Shannon Sharpe, and they will follow him regardless if he stays on his podcast or he goes to a different outlet or different show. But like I said, it's just very disappointing because even to this day, there's a part of me that still loves watching it. Love waking up and seeing it. Well, when I'm able to, I remember this really started early on when I first started high school, really, and I remember just couldn't wait to see the topics, couldn't wait to look it up and see the videos of what they were discussing. I was excited, especially summer vacation, sitting down every morning, waking up and seeing what they're talking about. It was definitely fun to do that, and it's a shame that after 7 years, which doesn't even feel like it, I feel like it went by so fast from 2016 to now. But it's a shame that it's ending, and I hope for Skip Bayless, whether people think he's just doing it for views or he's sincere. I think the right thing to do is for the final show, at least for the final part, the last half of it, is to not talk about sports and kind of just thank Shannon for everything he's done and kind of celebrate him and the success of what he was able to do and involve him, to how he really evolved himself in Undisputed when he first started to now. He really has grown into a content creator and also just a big name in sports media in general. And I kind of hope that they really take the time to honor him and not do 30 seconds at the end of the show and just say, give him a thank you. Actually, I kind of appreciate him because if it wasn't for Shannon, who knows what had happened to Undisputed? Who knows where the direction it could have gone if he wasn't for him, if he were to pick someone else. So I think for Skip, well, once again, if people take it as he's just doing it for attention or not, or if he's being sincere, I think that regardless, the right thing to do for Skip is to kind of honor him and just say thank you and appreciate everything he's done for the show. Because if it wasn't for him, he probably won't be in the spot he is with Undisputed. But I'm just going to wrap it up here. Again, once again, kind of get my thoughts on the whole situation with Shannon Sharpe leaving and kind of dive into a different part of the problem with the Undisputed, the show in general. Once again, it's very sad to see this era ending. Of course, wish nothing the best for Shannon Sharpe, but even for Skip Bayless, even though he's one of the worst, debaters probably on sports in general, and also giving his thoughts on things. I don't wish for any worse on him. I don't wish any ill will on him whatsoever. I hope he succeeds in whatever it may be, if it's Undisputed or if he moves on to somewhere else. I hope both guys they do well in their future, whatever it may be. But I'm gonna wrap it up here. Let me know your thoughts down below on the whole Undisputed Shannon Sharpe situation. Let me know your thoughts on where you think Shannon's gonna go with, and also what's gonna happen with Undisputed after he leaves. With that being said, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.